Today we are going to do some iced tea using Fabernation. First of all, we will add the base items that we need to produce the iced tea. Then we will add the tools that we need, and finally we will create the cup of iced tea item. The items that we need are a glass, a spoon, and iced tea powder. Let's start with the glass. Okay, so now we have one item with version 0, and I am the owner of this item, which means I am the only person able to add new versions to this item. Let's do that. Let's say that we specify a drinking glass, and it's just the most simple or most generic version of drinking glass. Can be of any kind. For now, I will only add an image. Okay. Okay, great. We added the first item. Now the spoon. The spoon is added as well. And the iced tea powder. Okay, done. We added the 3 items that we need to make iced tea. The next step is to define the tools that will be needed to produce the iced tea. And there will be 2 tools. One is manual work, and the other is called the cold water dispenser. So let's add these tools. And here we can say it should be we can describe what kind of tools that we mean. And here I would not define any parameter and no image I would leave it like this. And then the cold water dispenser. And we could say that it could be for example, and here we could specify, for example, that it's an instant cold water. For example, and here we will define a parameter, and the parameter will be useful to compute the properties of processes when producing products. So here I propose to set the volume of water that we need as a parameter, and the volume can be in milliliters, and the type would be a float, and the description would be okay. So now we define this parameter that is required for this tool, and let's add it. We have our two tools. Let's start with the manual work. Before we can start using tools, we have to define a script. So somebody has to request a vote on the tool. And here the purpose of the script is to compute values associated to the use of this tool. And for example, it can be the carbon footprint in grams of CO2. And here, if I request a vote, I can give some justification of why I want to vote or what I suggest as an answer. And here I would say that manual work does not emit CO2. And actually breathing, it emits CO2, but this is part of the natural carbon cycle. Okay. So let's request a vote on this. And we started producing deliberation. Our comment is here. And if we look at the script, we see that this person is requested to vote. This person has been randomly selected among the members. For now, there are only 2 members in the DAO. So let's switch to this account. Now we switch to the other member, and we can see here that an answer is requested. We can also see it here. So if we just open that tool, we are requested to answer. And first we are asked to answer on the validity of the tool, and if the tool seems legit and defined properly, we can say it's valid. And for the script, we can say that the quantity of CO2 is just 0. And in the comment, we can say that we agree that manual work does not emit CO2. Done. So now we added a comment in the deliberation. And when we see the scripts, we see that there is actually one option with one vote. One vote is not enough to provide a value, a result which can be trusted, but there is actually a value. There is a vote on the proposal. And this is all what we need for now. And let's do the same for the cold water dispenser. We can request a vote, and we can write the justification of why we want to vote. And yes, now the same person who asked, who requested the vote is the same person as the one who has to provide an answer to, who has to provide the vote. And this might happen sometimes because the voter is randomly selected, but it's not an issue because when the DAO or the community becomes larger, there are so many members that it becomes unlikely that you have to vote on questions that you ask. So there is no issue at all. And here we have one parameter, which is volume, which we defined previously. And we could say that, for example, the quantity of CO2 is volume times 0.12. So it would mean that for each milliliter of cold water that we need, we produce 0.12 grams of CO2. So this is a proposal, and we can justify here why this value. Okay, let's submit. So this is also done. We can see the script that we proposed. We are now ready to define the cup of iced tea product. And this item has has elements in the bill of materials. It uses for one time the item 0 version 0, which is the drinking glass. One time the item 1 version 0, which is the spoon. And one time the item 2 version 0, which is the iced tea powder. Now let's define the production process. The first step is to pour the powder into the glass. It is manual work. And Then we can say that the cold water should be added. This time the tool is tool 1 version 0, and therefore it asks to give the parameter that we defined previously, which is the volume. And for a glass, we can say that it's 200 milliliters, for example. And finally, stir it all using the spoon. And this is again manual work. And the image of the product. Great, we have our cup of iced tea product. And what is really cool is that it's possible to view one item within another item. And this can continue like recursively very far. So it's possible to know, to look very deep into the details if the screen is large enough. And we can see also the process that we made. We can open the tool and so on. But we can also open the tool in a separate window. And we have some algo result. And the algo result is the result of the algorithm. And what it provides is values. So basically, it computes automatically using the process for each steps. It looks at the tool and how much, what are the values for the parameters given. And it will also check for all the elements of the bill of material. It will also compute recursively the values of all the dependencies. And it will output the value here that we have. And here we see 24 grams of CO2. And this is because we said 200 milliliters and 0.12 grams of CO2 per milliliter. So this is correct, and manual work doesn't count, so it's only the cold water dispenser that that has a CO2 footprint. But it's important to be aware that what the algorithm does is only provide a result from an algorithm, and therefore the result might not make sense. It could be, for example, that the product definition is not correct, or maybe that there is an issue with one of the scripts used by the algorithm. And for this, there is a consensus on the items, as we have seen for the tools. But instead of voting on scripts, we vote on values. So let's try this. And we can see that we are asked to provide the values that we consider to be correct. We are also asked to check the validity of the item, and it could be different things. For example, it's impossible to build the product or maybe the product is dangerous, and it should never be built, or anything that the community defines as invalid. And here we have to input the values, but it's not only about defining values, it's also making sure that humans check the algo result and they check whether it makes sense, and they can look at dependencies, the process, and if there is anything that need to change, they can also request a vote on a script. For example, here it's possible to just request a vote on the algorithm for a tool, for a particular tool. Once this is clarified, it's possible to just submit an answer, and here we can say that we agree with this 24 grams, and we can here add the justification and submit the vote. There is also the feature of giving feedback for items, and feedback is actually quite different from consensus, because consensus is expected to be representative of the community, while feedback is given by people who feel concerned about something. Usually it's either positively or negatively, but it's also an important input. And for example, for the items, there are two kinds of feedback. There is production feedback and use feedback. Production is about the production process, and use is about using the product. So for the production feedback, we could say that it's very easy and give it an 8. And for the use, we could say that it tastes very good and it's refreshing. And give it a 10.